Prior to 1845, whole families worked in the mine. Children were born in the mines and started working the mines from the early age of 3. Welcome to Wood End Mining Museum. My name's Carole Johnson and I'm one of the owners and founders of the museum. The museum came about by accident. We bought some extra land in 2010 and this part happened to be the bit that joined two larger fields together. This is the site of the old Wood End Colliery. The last vertical shaft to be sunk in the Burnley Coalfield, sunk in 1910, worked from 1912 to 1959. Nothing left on the surface to be seen now at all. As with most collieries, everything is in a big hole in the ground. So we are trying to do our bit here by showing what we've managed to get together, all items relating to the coal industry. We've now got quite a range of exhibits for you to have a look at. In this case here we've got two guys who will be going down the shaft. Originally they would have gone down in baskets, but obviously there were a lot of fatalities with that. But these guys are going down in a rather primitive shaft. It would have been just cut across with a rope, possibly 2 decks high. There may be anything between 8 to 16 people going down at any one time. Literally descending hundreds of feet into darkness. Now when we took this on and decided to actually have a museum, all we had to go off was a table of rust, and most of the items that you'll now see in here have either been bought or donated by other miners in the locality. Some were bought from Keswick Mining Museum when that closed, and some from Earby Lead Mining Museum when that closed as well. Only the items pertaining to coal mining. Now, when we took this site, because it was derelict, we had nothing to go off. We had no idea what the pit would have looked like, and all we had in the end was a drawing done by one of the miners who used to work here. And from that, we managed to get a model made down in South Wales of what this pit probably looked like when it was working. And then, as with all things, you just get that finished and the photographs come out of the actual pit when it was in its heyday. So we now have those as well.
My name is Dennis Cover. I started in mining in the 60s. I worked at Bankhall, Upton Valley and Agecroft Colliery. I am down here visiting Wood End Mining Museum now, and if you've got a chance to come down and have a good look at it, because it is very interesting for people that have never seen how to do with mining.
So now we've moved into the final room of the exhibition, and this room is really dedicated by and large to the men who died in the Hudson Valley disaster on the 22nd of March 1962. There were 16 men killed on the day, 3 died later from the injuries, and a lot of men were very terribly burned. There is a case in here, as you'll see, with the motorbike in it, or a Vespa scooter should I say. The scooter is in memory of the youngest person to die in the Hudson Valley disaster, a young man by the name of Ronnie Taylor, who would have been 17 the following week. Unfortunately, he was the youngest to die on the 22nd of March 1962. It's his nephew who's done this Vespa in his honour. It's completely covered in all graphics from the disaster and from mining in general, and it has a list on the front of all the young men who died there. So it's quite a very special piece. It spent quite a time here originally, then it went off to New Zealand, and now it's here for hopefully a long time to come. With various other artefacts in here relating to the disaster, you'll see on the wall there is a forensic map. Now, when the rescue team had been through the mine and got out all the people who were dead and injured, they then go through and they do a complete and thorough examination of the mine to find out the cause of the Hudson Valley disaster. And if you look at the map, you'll actually see all the places where the people were killed, mainly on the coal face, and then the part where Ronnie Taylor was killed along with two others, because they were killed at the top end of the outer run of air, because you've got an intake and an outtake of air in a mine, and the air coming in pushed the fire back up the outtake, and the three young men were killed up there. Most of the men were killed on the actual coal face, and their names are all in little black rectangles, and you can see the spot where they were found. Everything that was found in the mine is recorded on the map, including a dead rat, and the actual cause of the disaster was able to be deduced from this map. And the cause of the disaster was a little piece of tin foil from chewing tobacco that happened to spark, possibly in somebody's pocket. Probably didn't even know it was there. So it was a tragedy, and even to this day, every year, there is a memorial held at Burnley Cemetery for the men who were killed and for the men who were injured at the Hudson Valley disaster. The rest of this room, you'll see there are lots and lots of plates, mainly to do with Lancashire, although a few are from further afield. There's some rather regularly one that is the rescue plate. There are also other things. There's a nice drawing on the wall which shows you Blackpool Tower in proportion to the Eiffel Tower, in proportion to the Empire State Building, which used to be the tallest building in the world, and that against Bank Hall Colliery, which gives you some idea of the depth of Bank Hall Colliery, because that goes further down than the Empire State Building goes up. And the men will tell you that the banksman, or that's the man who operated the lift, could have you down in 45 seconds if he felt like it. Rather a long, very, very short drop. In the cabinet here, you'll see a pair of Bevan Boys boots. Now, they don't look any different to any other miner's boots, really, except that these have got steel studs on, which isn't a good idea in a mine. They are an original pair, and what concerns me is that a lot of people don't know who the Bevan Boys were, and they've had all sorts of bad press over the years. They've been, being cowards, conscientious objectors, all sorts of things. Now, Bevan Boys were conscripted to work in the mines. Ernest Bevan realised that they weren't going to have enough coal miners, because a lot of the coal miners had elected to go to fight for the country, even though coal mining was a reserved occupation. And so they were short of the men to produce the coal to fuel the war effort. And so what they did, every month they chose 10 numbers at random. Out of those 10 numbers, they chose 2 again at random. And if your conscription papers had come through with either of those 2 numbers on, then you would have gone down the pit instead of going to the front. They didn't have a choice. They could appeal, but very, very few got through on appeal. And there was something like 20,000 18-year-old boys, men, who were conscripted to work in the coal mines. Many of them lost their lives just by working in the coal mines, and they were sent to places they'd never heard of, into a situation they never dreamed of, and to quote one or two of them, it was hell on earth.
I come from Ossining, New York, and I am here in Burnley for a variety of reasons, and we saw your sign and we came by. And we had this terrific tour of your museum, and not only did I feel like it was educational, but there was a very emotional portion to the tour and to what I learned, which really gave a meaning to what people here had to put up with and had to go through and had to survive through to feed their families and keep themselves going. And it wasn't easy. It was flat out horrible and hard. But the tour really put it into perspective. It really did, and gave a very heartfelt overall picture of what people had to put up with.